going on, everybody? Gengaozo the 13th here with another episode, checking out the Gengaozo for the week of the 23rd of April 2026. We have another 3-star general here with its own step up and all that good stuff, rocking a Zanskare-ish suit. Actually, let me double check that. Yep, Fire Griffin. Oh god. So apparently in the show, and you can see it in the counter, we'll probably just show it off in the practicing. That whole big binder in the back can actually be launched at people, kind of like the Fatum from the seed suit. Oh my god, my brain. But a lot of stuff on this suit. We got discharge. We have a rapid shot with this, rapid shot with a rifle as well. But as you can see from the stats here with the ranged and melee strength, they want you to melee because this is a 2 melee suit with a heavy stagger on this mace that's really stumpy and has a really weird pattern on it. So they had to make it a freak suit. Unfortunately. Now, it does have its advantages and disadvantages, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the practice rounds and kind of show off the way that all this shit behaves. Because it does have its own special mode that changes the way some of this behaves, as well as a special hold down button, or not, square reload button, like overcharged for this, for the actual MV launcher itself. Baseline range for this, so the rifle is 350. Everything up to except for the discharge is typically in that 300 to 350 range, very midliney. The discharge in and of itself also takes 2.5 seconds to focus. I'm telling you right now, it feels a lot longer. Not enough that you should probably put any focus parts on there, but if you're really leaning on this or hoping to get that discharge, because the big thing about this, when it comes to the launcher stuff in general, is that it doesn't have a lot of high-end damage. It's only 1,000 for this. It's 800 for these on the discharge. But this is extended damage, and it's all focused pretty closely. They're counting on the multiple barrels of this thing to make up the difference and to make it seem devastating. The rifle itself doesn't have that. The rapid and all that's just for the sake of accumulating, stun, maybe punishing people when they land. And then the melee, of course, baseline 3,000. The mace, on top of having that heavy stagger, is actually 3,400. And then it does have a beam shield to slap shit around with for a baseline power of 2,750, which is very specific. Not really sure why it just stops there. And then you have your visual receptors. You can see stuff, 300 range. Be able to see people through stuff and it overheats. Looking at these stats real quick, we got 28k health, ballistic beam and melee resistance are 22, 36, and 34 respectively. Range strength of 28. Yeah, they're short checking it because it has a lot of range stuff. Melee is 47 baseline, so pretty easy to get into the 50s or even 60s without having to put too much crazy shit on it. Keep in mind that this is a baseline 750 suit. So scaling on this, outside of doing it through like the mechanic stuff, in terms of upgrades, not really a thing. Moving on from that, we have a movement speed of 140, top speed of 235, thruster gauge of 85, and turning speed of 81. So this all pretty relatively high up there, and definitely reactive, able to track things pretty well. Part slots then, we got 22, 20, and 14 for close, medium, and long respectively. Like I said, rarity of 3, priority of 2 on this. Skill-wise, kind of a mix, and I think it's mostly because it also has that mode. Oh, hey now, don't do all that. I wish that they would show you some of the other stuff that happens, because you do get some bumps and stuff for the BE, so they call it the BE unit control system. We'll get to that in a second. But emergency evasion 2 rolls. Flight control program 3, fall prevention system 1, damage control 2, glide structure 3, anti-blast stabilizer 1, melee composite system 2, high-spec ambac 2, maneuver armor 1, aerial melee system 2, force injector 4, optimized cooling efficiency 2, flat booster 1. Now when we get into what the BE unit control system does, it is mostly a flight system, so that's kind of why. And it does have a decent amount of thruster. If you really want to be able to hold your own and flap a little bit longer, you're going to have to put some other boost stuff on this. The BE unit control, I think that they figured that because this has a variable recharge time, and depending on if you get hit out of it or if you just run out naturally, it does give you a fresh bar of boost where you're going to go through it real fast if you need to try to get elevated. with flat booster 1. And that's one of my immediate gripes with this. Special leg buffer and special back add-on buffer, both at 5 for 50%. No, 50% for this, but 40 for the legs. I don't know why there's a difference there. That's weird. But at least they do have some higher buffers. They kind of realize that this thing's going to get tagged a lot. And they're right. Going into the expansion list, then we're talking about beam +1 to beam modifier, +1 to melee resistance, +1 to melee modifier, and for the last one of the regular upgrades, 2750 for complex expansion slot on level 1. For the unlockables, then we get +5 to anti-beam and +5 to melee modifier. That's the long and short of it there. Let us show off this odd duck in practice. Talk about it a little bit more. Sometime in the century. Come on. I believe. Do it. Please. Just get in there. Thank you. So, some interesting stuff going on with the weapon systems on here. Regular stun for that. I'm just gonna, yeah. So 4-round burst. And then you pretty much have to have 6 shots land for that. Now, regardless of that, that's all instant stun. And it's doing a decent chunk. Obviously, baseline defensive stuff is going to shave it off, even if you have something that's, what's the word? Type disadvantage or whatever. And we have the melee here, the bunk, that's a heavy stagger on that. The downswing for this, being a good chunk into a thrust, and a decent amount of carry for the downswing on the saber. Beyond that, we do have the multiple beam launcher. Gotta wait a hot second for that to actually charge up. Streams through. The Garobi duration is not very long, and as you can see there, it does pierce. Kind of interesting. Not great, because they keep the damage so low on the baseline. And it's kind of messy, right? Like, it's not always going to hit with everything. You'll be kind of lucky if it centers correctly, unless you're at the outside of its range. So you're doing a decent amount, but not a lot, because it's not sustained. And that's kind of the issue with that. The alternate fire for these is actually a shotgun-like thing, so no more... outside of cumulative there. The issue being, it feels like you got a decent range of fire with this. It does not feel like that when you're fighting. So for anyone who's more familiar with like older flight systems, that kind of thing, you're probably going to be right at home when it comes to the VE. You do get some mobile shooting with, you know, all this. You've got to keep in mind though that unlike things like the Burga and all that, that you're not going to be doing all that from whatever direction you want. If you go to the side or backwards, that mobile firing will not work. So not quite as flexible as other suits that have mobile shooting. Which is a little bit unfortunate, and I don't really understand why they did that. It seems kind of pointless. So, with that all in mind, we have a suit that's technically 3 melee. I'm going to be honest, that shield, I could really not give a shit. That they want you to move in with to, you know, reward the melee output and the heavy, because you have space movement technically with that mode. But if that's the case, then why even bother with half of this shit? It's not really as concise as other things that have shotgun-like things. You also have to, you know, assume that you have enough time to have that cooldown so that you can switch the mode. And although that is a pretty good duration for the entire volley to maybe get someone out of iframes if they try to dodge you or dodge something else when they see you in front of you, there's a good chance that you're just gonna run into some bullshit, you know, like the full cloth that has heavy buffers as well as eye fields. That's just gonna negate half your shit anyway. You have to remember that this is a suit, a 3-star suit, baseline, you know, 750, that's dealing with a lot of shit that essentially just has cheater skills on them. You know, and in that regard, things aren't always going to play out the way that I think they intend this suit to work out. That melee being only a 2 priority is not helping. And heavy stagger is nice, but look at this fucking thing. it's so fucking short because it's a mace and not a spear. And you're always gonna overshoot unless you're like pinning them against the wall. So there's a lot of weird little perks and stuff in here that make it feel a bit less like on top of shit. Now, is it workable? Sure. And we do have a couple rounds where it kind of went right. We're gonna put one of them right around here. Oh my god. You guys are coming around that corner so slow. Oh, he's got it. Oh, he's got it. Right. Did he get it? There he goes. Oh my lord. Yeah, and a lot of that's just changing between like stances and abilities to just do more on the fly. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, what the fuck? Oh my god, with the fucking contact. God damn it. Trying to put it inside of accumulation mode is too many button presses. Like, god damn. I can't stay neutral that long. And heavy stagger immediately. Yippee! Oh. The fact that that's charge only. Ugh. Oh my god, get off of me! Like, I'm doing damage, but what does it matter if they don't stop? So, like, fucking shit. Eyeballs. Wait, what's he doing? Oh, because he's a fucking double. Oh. Bleh. So we have C. He can stream off of that if he has to. In fact, he's probably gonna do it right now. Yeah, do it right now. He's gonna get hit by that eye. Yeah. Oh, but they both just kind of stopped each other. Oh, don't chase him. Hit the fucking base. Oh my god. Stop doing that. It's a worthless motion. Ooh, kinda glad I didn't connect. Oh my god. I send a thermal phase? Wait, what? What the fuck? Does it like actually last the whole usage? Like, does it stop stinking when you should change it? Because that'd be funny. It'd be interesting as an indicator. It's weird but good pace. Huh. Yeah, that was a little bit better. I think that's mostly because we had more pressure from that double Zeta, so they were just acting weird. I'm still just getting run over by stuff. And that was our run in this new monstrosity. So interesting, and I'm glad that they're branching out to different weird shit that they really didn't have to. They could have just gave us another Gundam or something that's a little bit more recognizable, but they gave us this creature. So for people who are interested in flight suits, you know, this is another crack at it at maximum cost, which is weird because it feels like, you know, outside of one or two suits, mobile armors are already out of style. Flight suits were never in style. And now we're dealing with stuff that has Minovsky Minovsky craft, you know, again, better than it was on SG and Penelope, as well as just things that have higher levels of flaps than this does. But, you know, at least the mode is infinite with the boost until the effect expires. You can do some space movement with this, and really you just kind of bully them with your 2 melee because this switches so fast and has a heavy stagger on it. But again, it feels like heavy stagger is being a bigger crutch at this cost. And if you're gonna just try to go in and do a lot of melee damage, there's a lot of suits that can do that are already here. A lot of the other 5-star shit does it, some of the 4-star stuff. Honestly, we had some halfway decent runs in the Moon, even though I wouldn't really directly recommend that. I would recommend that just as much as I would, or a little bit more than I would this thing, by comparison. So yeah, I'm at a bit of a loss as to what this is for outside of just the novelty of it. I'm sure there will be some guys who gel with this real good and they got that brain spice just right for it. And we'll see some crazy numbers as the week goes on. But I also have a feeling that this suit isn't going to last and be as prominent as other things that have been introduced at this cost. It's probably going to just introduce a lot of other suits that have kind of fallen out of favor, that work against this suit really well, because it's not doing the crazy full tilt that some of those higher end suits are. And once the message is received, people are just going to give up on it. You also have to keep in mind that we have a whole other week of stuff, because we have Golden Week coming up, and we don't know what's actually going to come out for that. Not to mention Anniversary is going to be creeping around the corner here as we get closer to the beginning and, you know, end of summer. Between that and the really odd melee and maneuver parts that we suddenly got, like there's a bunch of new offensive scaling parts per level. It seems like they should stack, but there's no real confirmation yet. I'll probably try to put a comment in the video for when people really start talking about that a little bit more on Twitter, or if we see it on the JP Wiki, or if you see it before I do, just, you know, grab a comment about that. Because I'll tell you right now, the extra high-speed maneuver or high-speed movement stuff doesn't seem like it stacks. It's still only at 10 on max suits as opposed to like 15 with both of them put together. And I don't know if that's on purpose and that they just wanted it to be like a slightly lighter part version for like maybe lower level suits. It doesn't make sense. And it seems like this is a very bait heavy kind of week. But obviously this is the first day. These are just my initial impressions. Mileage may vary. I think in general, compared to some of the level boosted stuff that people are busting out at this cost, this does have an interesting kit. If you are very full tilt oriented, having that mobile fire come out only when you're going forward probably isn't really going to matter to you, especially if you're also someone who really likes having that space movement. In that regard, I can see this being a really vicious suit for certain people to rock. But for everyone else that wants a little bit more flexibility, it's got a lot of stuff that it can do. A lot of it takes a lot of getting used to, and there's a lot of weird quirks that make it seem a little bit too busy for the effort. And that's kind of my general take on it. But that's going to be the long and short of it for now. You know, if you have any other things that you want to add, or if you think there are certain things that you're going to be trying to do with this suit, you know, be sure to let us know in the comments. And until next time, hope you guys have a good rest of your morning, night, or whatever, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.